Hello, everybody. We're back to doing some more factoring of these trinomials right here, and so we're going to talk about what happens when that third term is negative. Now, remember, I do these a little bit differently than maybe your teacher does. This is kind of a method I came up with because I found that people could find all the factors that work. Problem is, people would always get the signs wrong. That was the part that always hurt. So I came up with a little device that helps people to get the signs first before we even do stuff. So remember, these are all going to have parentheses, and they're all going to start with an x and an x. That's going to happen with every single problem, and that's when they look like x squared, x, and a number, okay? And so now I'm going to go back to my whiteboard here, and we did this in the last chapter where I said if you see that the third term is a negative, what do I mean by that? Well, here's the third term. It's just the number term, okay? And we learned in the last one that the third term is positive. Your signs are going to be the same. They're either going to be plus, plus, or minus, minus. You're going to take the sign of the middle number, and then when you find the factors of the third, they're going to add to the middle. Well, now we're going to do things a little bit different. If the third term is negative, the signs will be different. Just like they were the same if it's third term positive, as soon as I see that third term negative, I know my signs are going to be different. Number two, factors of the third. Well, on the other ones, they would add to the middle. Now they're going to subtract to the middle, okay? And to get the sign of that third term, you're going to take the bigger number, and that's going to get the sign of the middle, okay? And so these are the three things that you're going to need to remember, and you're going to need to remember them with the positive one. And if this little chart, if this can start to feel very confident to you, you're always going to get them right, okay? You just got to find the factors, so you do need to know your multiplication tables pretty well to find the factors quickly, but you won't miss the signs if you do this. Let's just do some, and I think you'll see what I mean. Let me kind of erase the circle. So when I see that third term is negative right there, as soon as I see that negative sign, I know I can go plus minus. Okay, done. Okay, now I need to find factors of 18. When it was third term positive, we added to the middle. But now it's third term negative, they want to subtract to the middle. Well, that's going to be 9 and 2. 9 times 2 is 18. 9 minus 2 is 7. So now we just got to know which one goes with which as far as the signs. The bigger one, which is 9, gets the sign of the middle, which is positive. This gets the 9, and that gets the 2. Now, if you remember the shortcut I showed you on foiling, multiply the two outies, or the two numbers. Positive 9 times negative 2 is a negative 18. Now, add them together. What's positive 9 plus a negative 2? It's a positive 7. See, if I put the 9 with the negative and the 2 with the positive, then when I add them together, I would have got a negative 7. So that's why it gets the sign of the negative, okay? So that's kind of the why. Now let's just do them a little bit quicker now, okay? Now on this one, whenever you see the middle number that's just 1 away from the third, that's a telltale sign that it's going to be that number and 1. Because remember, everything can be multiplied by 1. That 12 can be 12 times 1. You know, it can also be 6 times 2. It can be, 4 times 3. Okay, but as soon as you see that that middle number is 1 less, you know you're going to go with one of these, okay? So anyways, let me put in my parentheses. And my third term is negative. Third term is negative. My signs are different. What multiplies to 12 and subtracts to 11 is 12 and 1. Which one's bigger? The 12. The 12 gets the sign of the plus. The 1 gets the sign of the minus. What's positive 12 times negative 1? Negative 12. What's positive 12 plus negative 1? Positive 11. See how this works? Okay, let's do the other one. Third term is negative. Signs are different. What multiplies to 35 and subtracts to 2? 7 and 5. 7's the bigger one. It gets the sign of the plus. Okay? Next one. Oh, that middle number is 1 less than the third. That tells me something. Third term is negative. Signs are different. The numbers have to subtract to the middle. Okay? And 16 is going to go with the positive. 1's going to go with the negative. Number 9. I probably should have set up these parentheses beforehand. I'll do that in B and C to make it quicker. Okay? So now, what multiplies to 21 but subtracts to 4? Okay? Sorry, I should have done this first. And the answer is going to be 7 and 3. And 7 is going to get the positive. Okay, what multiplies to 12 and subtracts to 11? That's going to be 12 and 1. And 12 is going to go with the positive. Next one. Oh, Sorry, all these parentheses are taking time in the video. Here we go. What multiplies to 27 and subtracts to 6? Now you got to play with this a little bit. And after you do and you figure your factors, you're going to see that's going to be 9 and 3. Okay? 9 and 3 multiply to 27. They subtract the 6. Okay, now you take the sign of the middle, the bigger one, so that's going to be the 9, and that's going to be the 3. Remember, if it's third term positive, they add to the middle. If it's third term negative, they subtract to the middle. And we're going to do a mixed practice one later on, okay? So here's my x and my x. Now, this one you're going to see a lot, where there's no number in front of the x, and people get a little freaked out what to do with that. But remember, that's a 1, okay? Now, what kind of numbers subtract the 1? They're numbers that are next to each other. 2 and 3 subtract the 1. 3 and 4. 4 and 5. 5 and 6. 8 and 9. 15 and 16. 23 and 24. So if the numbers are consecutive numbers, that's what subtracts to 1. So what multiplies in the 42 but subtracts to 1? Well, think of two numbers that are next to each other, okay, that multiply to 42, and you're going to find you're going to get 6 and 7. 6, 7. Okay, so now the positive, the bigger number goes with the positive, and the smaller number goes with the negative, okay? And so there you go. So whenever you see nothing in front of that x, remember, it's really not nothing. It is a 1. And you're going to look for two numbers that subtract the 1, and they'll be right next to each other. Well, what multiplies in the 30, but will subtract the 13, okay? Now, this one you may have a hard time finding, because you're probably thinking 6 and 5, 10 and 3. And here's what I'll see people do. I'll see people write the 10 and the 3 because they add the 13. But what's the rule with the negative sign? They have to subtract the 13, because once you put the signs in here, you'll find out that the signs just won't work to give you a positive 13, because remember, the signs have to be different. If the signs aren't different, you're not going to get a negative third term. Okay, so that's why that's not going to work. These won't be the answers here. Okay, so let's say you can't find it right away. Well, this is 1 and 30. 2 and what? 15. Oh, guess what? I just found it. It's going to be 2 and 15. All right, and because the third term is positive, or sorry, the middle term is positive, 15 is going to go with that, and the 2 is going to go with that. Multiply them, negative 30, add them, positive 13. Let's go on to number 9. Okay, so remember, third term is negative, signs are different, factors of the third subtract, and that's going to be 8 and 5, and the bigger term gets a sign in the middle. Okay, let's keep going on this. Parenthesis, parenthesis, x and x. All right, third term is negative. Signs are different. What multiplies to 10 subtracts to 3. That's going to be 5 and 2. The bigger one gets a sign in the middle, so the bigger one's going to get the minus, and the smaller one's going to get the plus. Multiply them, negative 10, add them, negative 3. Hey, we win. Let's do number 4. Third term negative. When I see third term negative, all I know is signs are different, and I can write plus and minus right away. What will multiply to 9 and subtract to 8? 9 and 1. 9 is the bigger factor. It's going to get the sign in the middle. Let's take a look at the next one. Alrighty, we just did one like this a minute ago, but the signs were a bit different. Third term negative, I can go and write my signs different right away. What will multiply to 30 and subtract the 13? That's going to be 15 and 2. 15 is the bigger one, so he gets the sign of the middle. So 15 will go with the minus, and the 2 will go with the plus. Number 8. Third term negative, signs are different. What multiplies to 27 and subtracts to 6? 9 and 3. The bigger one takes the sign of the middle. Number 10, once you do a bunch of these, you're going to memorize this, okay? Right now you have to think about it, but once you memorize it, you'll never make a mistake again. 24, what multiplies to 24? 8 and 3, okay, and subtracts to 5. The bigger one gets the sign of the middle, 8 and 3. Now, if you notice, the left column was all plus in the middle. This one's all minus in the middle. In B and C, we're going to mix those up, okay? But right now, I'm just trying to make this very clean for you. Okay, third term is negative. Signs are different. Factors of the third subtract the 3. So that's going to be 7 and 4. The bigger one gets the sign of the middle, 7 and 4. Let's do the next one. Okay, XX, Third term is negative. Signs are different. What multiplies to 28 and subtracts to 12? So remember, one of those factors has to be bigger than 12, right? Because it can't subtract to 12 unless one's going to be bigger than 12. And as you figure that out, it's going to be 14 and 2. Okay, 14 times 2 is 28. 14 minus 2 is 12. Boom, the bigger one gets with the negative. The reason why I like this method is because sometimes students forget whether they need to add to the middle or subtract. And so while they're figuring factors, they're going, wow, what do they add or do they subtract? Well, here you don't even have to think about it. You know that they're going to subtract. Done. Here we go. Third term is negative. Signs are different. What multiplies the 30 and adds to, what is that? That's a 1. They have to be consecutive numbers. What consecutive numbers multiply to 30? It's 6 and 5. Okay, the 6 will get the negative, and the 5 will get the positive. Number 18, boom, 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 x, and a plus and a minus. Third term is a negative. Signs are different. Factors of the third will subtract to 8. That's going to be 10 and 2. Okay, and the 10 will get the sign of the negative. And the last one, x and x. Third term is negative. Signs are different. What multiplies to 60? And remember, it has to subtract to 17. Okay, now it's going to be 20 and 3, but let's say you didn't see that. 1 times 60, well, that subtracts to 59. Let's go 2. 2 times 30, well, that subtracts to 28. Let's go 3. Notice I just keep going up. Now I'm going to go 3. 3 times 20, well, that subtracts to 17. Hey, that's what I want. And if you didn't get that number, do you see how these numbers keep getting closer to each other? Next, you could have gone 4, and you could have got a 15. Then you would have gone 5 and 12. Notice how they keep getting close to each other. Then you'd go 6 and 10. Oh, now they're really getting close to each other. 7 won't go in, 8 won't go in, 9 won't go in. 10 would be your next one. And once you wrap around here, so now, 10 would be the next one. Then the next one would be 12, 15, so on and so forth. You found them all. So once you wrap back around, you found every factor you can find, okay? So anyways, we know it's going to be this one right here, okay? It's going to be 20 and 3. So I'm going to take the bigger one, and it's going to get the sign of the middle. And there it is, guys. Third term negative. All right, I'm going to do B. They're going to be mixed up a little bit more. I think that's really important that you do that. And I'm going to go a little bit quicker. And then if you feel good on B, you could probably skip C and go on to the mixed practice. But again, the more of these you do, the more you're going to start to memorize it. The only way you're going to really memorize it is just by doing it. So just do these, guys, and you're going to feel like a pro at the end. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next one.